I, Empress Dowager Xiaoxian, personally placed my son upon the dragon throne, yet he personally offered me a goblet of poisoned wine. Your son must avenge his foster mother. The chill in his eyes was more venomous than the wine. When I opened my eyes again, I had somehow returned to the time before entering the palace. It was already the third day since my rebirth, yet I still hadn't grown accustomed to this pitiful life as a lowborn daughter. The coarse fabric chafed my skin painfully, and the meager food stuck in my throat, nearly impossible to swallow. Yet this unpowdered face in the bronze mirror remained as stunningly beautiful as I remembered. In my past life, though I enjoyed utmost splendor, the phoenix crown weighed heavy, turning my raven hair prematurely white. 20 years in the deep palace, every night spent sleeping with weapons at hand, even my dreams filled with schemes. I'm exhausted, utterly exhausted, in this lifetime. I'd rather marry a street vendor than step again through those man-eating vermilion palace gates. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. The legal mother summoned me to the main courtyard, lazily twirling the teacup lid without even lifting her eyelids. Qingwan, dress properly when entering the palace tomorrow. I lowered my eyes with a faint smile and replied, yes. My elder sister had been in the palace for 3 years, enjoying the emperor's deep favor, yet her womb remained disappointingly barren. Now they needed to select a sister from the family to bear a child in her stead. As for me, a concubine-born daughter with peach blossom beauty, I was naturally the most suitable pawn. In my past life, after entering the palace, I quickly gave birth to a prince. My elder sister by the principal wife took the child away and even sought to have me killed, but how could I resign myself to this fate? My flesh and blood still lay in swaddling clothes. How could I bear to die? So I faked my death to escape, and from then on, I shed my naivety, advancing step by step with careful calculation. From a lowly maid, I climbed to the rank of imperial consort, and then to the empress who ruled over the realm. My elder sister initially hated me to the core, but later, seeing my unstoppable rise, she changed her tune and even helped me secure the emperor's favor. Her only demand was to continue raising my son. I was unwilling, but my father and the emperor both said my elder sister couldn't bear children, urging me not to contend. I thought I could have more children later, so I relented. Little did I know I would remain childless. When I became empress, I went to my elder sister to claim my 10-year-old son. My elder sister begged me tearfully, saying we would raise the child together, and though he would be raised under her care, I would always be his birth mother. Though I failed to win him over, in my heart, he was always my son. On the day the late emperor passed away, I personally placed the imperial crown upon my son's head, yet in the blink of an eye, he brought me poisoned wine, his eyes burning with hatred. The only mother I've ever known is consort Shu. How ridiculous. After all my scheming in the palace, in the end, I was still just a vessel for bearing children. On my deathbed, my elder sister wept and said, Qingwan, don't blame me for being cruel. You weren't like this before. It was the palace that changed you. At this thought, I let out a scornful laugh. The innocence of childhood long ago rotted away with my youth in the cracks between those palace bricks, but I've had my fill of the palace's scheming and deceit. In this lifetime, I'd rather rot in the mud than set foot in that man-eating imperial palace again. That night, I drank 2 cups of plum wine. I'm allergic to plums, and before dawn, my face was covered in red rashes. I looked at my reflection in the mirror, both happy and sad. In my previous life at the palace for decades, my face was my weapon. I never suffered such torment before. At dawn the next day, the matron who came to fetch me shattered the silence of the chamber with her scream. The second young Mrs. Face, the nanny, stumbled away to report to the legal mother. Before long, hurried footsteps echoed through the courtyard. You wretched creature. The legal mother's well-maintained face twisted in fury the moment she saw my rash-covered visage. Today of all days, the imperial selection. Are you deliberately trying to ruin consort Shu's grand plans? I covered my face and sobbed. Mother, please understand, perhaps the shad fish from last night wasn't fresh. Tears rolled down the rash, making it look even more shocking. The matriarch trembled with rage, but then the beaded curtain rustled as third sister Shen Hongmei rushed in, lifting her skirts. Mother, since second sister's face is ruined, why not let me go instead? Her eyes sparkled, and of course I knew exactly what she was thinking. Her fiancé, who broke his leg in a jealous brawl over the courtesan at Drunken Immortal Pavilion, had long become the laughingstock of the entire capital. Third sister had long refused to marry him, but he was the heir of Prince Yong'an's household, someone we couldn't afford to offend. Though the matriarch was unwilling to send her own daughter to the palace, there was no better alternative now. Among the marriageable women in our household, only third sister and I remained. That evening, third sister entered the palace gates in an apricot yellow palanquin. and my rash healed completely after 3 days. Now that you're well, prepare to marry into the Prince of Yongan's household. The matriarch idly stirred the tea foam as she spoke. The heir has been unconscious for over a month. The princely household needs a joy-bringing wedding. I obediently curtsied, hiding the smile at the corner of my lips. Xiao Heng, the heir of Prince Yongan, was a notorious playboy in the capital, spending his days gallivanting through pleasure quarters. But the prince's mansion was wealthy, and most importantly, in my past life, Xiao Heng had died during the Chongyang night banquet 3 years later. On the day the bridal sedan chair carried me into the prince's mansion, I traced the heavy golden embroidery on my wedding dress and laughed aloud. There is no identity in this world more carefree than that of a young and wealthy widow. All the wedding ceremonies were skipped. I was sent straight to the bridal chamber. The princess consort said that though her son was unconscious, he was fully functional in that regard, and urged me to conceive as soon as possible, inside the brocade curtains. Xiao Heng lay quietly, the candlelight casting a warm glow over his pale face. I clutched the hem of my clothes, my heart in turmoil. In my past life in the palace, all I had to do was cast a flirtatious glance at the emperor, and the matrons would take care of everything. But now, I bit my lip and reached for his sash anyway. After all, he wouldn't know. I comforted myself as I swiftly undid the ties of his underrobe. I must admit, this playboy heir was extraordinarily handsome, his well-defined chest rising and falling slightly with each breath, making the tips of my ears burn with embarrassment. Just as I was blushing and beginning to undo my wedding dress, I suddenly met a pair of clear, sober eyes. Consort WN. Startled, I tumbled off the bed. This title was my imperial consort designation from my past life. How could he know? Xiao Heng propped himself up on the bed, his eyes flashing with cold intensity. Why are you here? Today is our wedding. I fumbled nervously with my loosened collar. The young master has been unconscious for over a month. I was brought in as a bride to ward off bad luck. He threw off the covers to check, his expression darkening instantly. Who gave you permission to enter this mansion? In the flickering candlelight, I clearly saw a flash of murderous intent in his eyes. How could this be the notorious playboy from the rumors? Get out, he commanded coldly. Fine, out I'll go. He won't die for another 3 years anyway. Now that he's awake, there'll be plenty of chances to conceive. When I pushed open the door, Xiaodao was dozing against the porch pillar. Startled awake by my sudden appearance, second young miss, her eyes widened as her gaze swept over my disheveled collar. How did you get out? I adjusted my loose collar and whispered urgently. Go inform the princess consort at once, the heir has awakened. Seeing Xiaodao still frozen in shock, I emphasized sharply, remember, this news must spread to every corner of the royal residence. Xiaodao finally snapped out of her daze and scurried away, lifting the hem of her skirt. Though she hadn't succeeded in conceiving a child tonight, she had to firmly grasp the merit of this auspicious ritual. She would make sure the entire prince's household knew it was she, Shen Qingwan, who had brought this good fortune. Before long, the princess consort arrived in haste with the physician. I listened to the sobbing sounds coming from the inner chamber, gazing at the moon in the sky, yet my thoughts drifted far away. In my past life, I knew very little about Xiao Heng, only hearing that he was a libertine who remained childless after 3 years of marriage with third sister. Later, he suddenly died a violent death. And the Prince of Yongan and his wife also passed away in sorrow. Now it seems this young master has also been reborn. Then he probably won't die on schedule. Never mind, he has plenty of ways to court death. What matters is that I must have a child as soon as possible, without an heir, once Xiao Heng dies. This vast family fortune will eventually be confiscated by the state treasury. I, Shen Qingwan, didn't come back to this life just to be an empty shell widow. The next day, the princess consort indeed arrived bearing lavish gifts. She grasped my hands, calling me her lucky star repeatedly, while maidservants behind her held gold-traced lacquer trays piled high with pearl hairpins and golden ornaments. All these are for you. The princess consort patted my hand affectionately. When you're with child, you may pick whatever treasures you like from the storeroom. Dusk found me seated before the dressing table, holding up one by one the newly acquired golden hairpins. The bronze mirror reflected my irrepressible smile, making even the candlelight appear exceptionally bright. You were supposed to enter the palace. Why didn't you go? Xiao Heng's voice suddenly came from the bed. Though awake, his legs still lacked strength, confining him to bed all day. At this moment, he reclined halfway against the headboard, his dark hair cascading loosely, making his complexion appear even paler. Twirling the intricate golden phoenix hairpin in my hand, I laughed. What's so great about entering the palace? So many beauties fighting over one emperor. Marrying you is just fine. Being the legitimate wife of the prince's only son brings the same wealth and status. Xiao Heng let out a cold laugh. How could you possibly lose in such competition? Beautiful and ruthless, is there anything you couldn't obtain if you wanted? I walked over and sat beside him, tracing my fingertip over his chest. Then, my lord, do you think I could win your heart? Wishful thinking. He abruptly turned his face away, but his Adam's apple bobbed slightly. There's already someone in my heart. I nearly laughed out loud. Someone in his heart. Since the princess consort allowed me through the door, that so-called beloved must be utterly unworthy of public acknowledgement. With a flick of my finger, his underrobe fell open. Xiao Heng suddenly gripped my wrist. Shen Qingwan, don't you dare be so insolent. A night of spring is worth 1,000 pieces of gold. My lord, I smiled, freeing my hand from his grasp as my wedding dress slipped from my shoulders. Shameless, he gritted his teeth, but gradually grew dazed in the intoxicating scent of the love flower incense I had lit. Within the warm hibiscus-curtained bed, his resistance eventually melted into lingering gasps of passion. The rain and clouds had just subsided as I lay against his sweat-dampened chest, my fingertips tracing the delicate contours of his collarbone. Xiao Heng feigned sleep with closed eyes, then suddenly murmured in a low voice, "No wonder the emperor has doted on you for years. Your repertoire of techniques is truly impressive." I casually rested my hand on my abdomen. Let him curse if he wishes. So long as I conceive a child, why should I care how he views me? 2 months later, Xiao Heng's leg injury had mostly healed. As for me, I was diagnosed with a pregnancy. On the first night he could walk again. He went out late and didn't return until dawn. Leaning against the headboard, I caught the heavy scent of rouge mixed with blood on him. He sat by the window, his eyes rimmed red, motionless until dawn. The next day, the whole city was abuzz with news. The courtesan of drunken immortal pavilion had died. My heart skipped a beat. That very courtesan in his past life, Xiao Heng had spent fortunes on her, even defying his princess consort to take her as a noble concubine. Now that he has been reborn, the first thing he did was to personally kill her. 3 days later, Xiao Heng was again absent all night. In the early morning, news came that Liu Pingji, the only son of General Liu, had died suddenly at home. The teacup in my hand nearly slipped. Isn't Liu Pingji Xiao Heng's closest friend? Yet in their previous life, when Xiao Heng was critically ill, he was already fooling around with third sister. So is Xiao Heng now settling scores one by one after being reborn, if that's truly the case? Then in this life, wouldn't he avoid death? I gently stroked my still flat belly and sighed inexplicably. If he doesn't die, wouldn't I have to face this cold expression every day? Still awake, Xiao Heng's voice suddenly sounded in the darkness, startling me. In the flickering candlelight, I saw him leaning against the doorframe, his dark robes still carrying the chill of night dew. I let out a cold laugh. The air goes out to kill every night. With me carrying your child, it's only natural I'd fear retribution. He burst into laughter. If even a venomous beauty like you can be reborn, why should I fear retribution? My heart jolted violently. The Xiao Heng of these past few days was utterly different from the man I'd first awakened to, yesterday. He drank that coarse tea without batting an eye. I distinctly remember when he first woke up, I brought him a bowl of coarse tea to rinse his mouth, and he refused. He suddenly closed in, his blood-stained fingers gripping my chin. You've stockpiled 30,000 bushels of grain. Did you predict next year's drought? A mere common-born girl. Yet even your tea must follow palace rules. Water boiled thrice, cup filled to 7/10. Did you think you hid it well? I forced a dry laugh, never expecting him to observe so keenly. In the flickering candlelight, our eyes met, each concealing secrets from 2 lifetimes. Since Xiao Heng had spoken to me like this, I no longer needed to pretend. Are you seeking revenge? I asked him directly. Naturally, in my past life, I was deceived by villains and implicated my parents. Having been fortunate enough to live again, of course I must take revenge. I remained silent. In my past life, after his death, the prince and princess indeed died of sorrow. Tell me, why did you choose to marry me in this reincarnated life? He asked me again. I sighed. I married you because you were supposed to die young. Never thought the wedding would actually revive you. Xiao Heng's gaze lingered on my face before he suddenly chuckled lightly. No wonder the emperor is so infatuated with you. You truly have the beauty to topple cities and ruin states. Now you're getting lucky, I said carelessly. Toying with the ends of my hair, he abruptly pressed me down onto the couch, his warm breath brushing past my ear. I was being obtuse before. Let me make it up to you now. I hastily pushed against his chest. Xiao Heng, I'm with child. He tightened his embrace with a faint smile. Shen Qingwan, did you plan from the start to become a widow? I guiltily averted my eyes. That's right, I had intended to be a wealthy widow, but who knew he would stubbornly refuse to die? Since I've married you, I'll naturally take responsibility, he suddenly said with solemnity. I took the opportunity to ask him, then, how about gifting me that hot spring villa in the suburbs? His expression suddenly turned cold. What, do you also want revenge? My heart skipped a beat. How did he even know about that? Didn't he die quite early? I can help you, he said softly, gently stroking my hand. Why help me? I never believed there was such a thing as kindness without reason. Xiao Heng smiled but offered no explanation. Another year passed, and the golden autumn of October arrived with royal hunting banners fluttering in the wind. The emperor, accompanied by several favored concubines, set off in grand procession to the Western Hills hunting grounds. All the noble youths of the capital were in attendance, and Xiao Heng was naturally among them. My elder sister, the beloved consort Shu, was also present as expected, but in this lifetime, I have no desire for revenge against my sister. Having lived through the depths of the palace, I understand all too well the despair of a childless consort. Had our positions been reversed, I might not have shown more mercy than she did. After all, it was my own son who handed me the poisoned wine. Pity that in this lifetime, he will never appear. I asked Xiao Heng for that hot spring estate. It was all for Zhu Jiangqi's sake. The estate bordered the hunting grounds, offering a clear view of every movement within. Zhu Jiangqi was the man I loved in my past life but could never have, yet I could never marry him. After all, the emperor would never permit two military families wielding such formidable power to form a marital alliance. In his previous life, Zhu Jiangqi shot a sika deer during this hunting trip. He secretly had the deer hide, which the emperor had rewarded him, made into a cushion and gifted it to me. This humble subject's hands are clumsy. Your Highness will have to make do. I remember how he kept his eyes downcast, not daring to look at me, yet the tips of his ears were burning red. That deerskin mat followed me through 20 years of wandering in the deep palace. Even in the hardest times, I couldn't bear to part with it, until I seized military power for my son and sent him to distant frontier posts. From then on, amidst the lone smoke of the vast desert, we never met again, in this lifetime. I only wished to gaze upon him from afar, to watch him draw his bow on horseback, to see him safe and happy. That would be enough. Before departure, the princess consort anxiously held my hand and insisted on sending over 20 attendants to accompany me. Nannies, maids, and guards formed a long procession. One might have thought I was moving in for an extended stay. Seated in the cushioned carriage, I couldn't help but chuckle softly. Sometimes I think marrying Xiao Heng isn't so bad, at least when it comes to displays of wealth and grandeur. There's truly nothing to complain about. When we arrived at the hunting grounds, Xiao Heng escorted me to pay respects before His Majesty. I looked up to see my elder sister standing beside the emperor. Though only a few months had passed, fine lines had already appeared at the corners of her eyes, her weariness showing through the layers of powder. I lowered my eyes in greeting, catching a glimpse of her hands tightly clutching a handkerchief. Indeed, in all this time since third sister entered the palace, her belly had remained still, but several newly arrived concubines had already conceived. How could she not be anxious? After paying respects to the emperor, Xiao Heng and I went to sit by the hunting grounds. Zhu Jiangqi stood not far away, dressed in the uniform of an imperial guard. The sunlight outlined his tall, straight figure, as if from a past life. Is it proper for a woman carrying my child to stare at another man? Xiao Heng's voice suddenly whispered close to my ear. I quickly averted my gaze and laughed awkwardly. No, I just thought he looked familiar. Familiar? Xiao Heng sneered. Shen Qingwan, do you think I'm easy to fool? No, that's not what I meant. He suddenly grabbed my chin, forcing me to meet his eyes. The way you looked at him was practically dripping with longing. What? Can't forget an old flame. You've misunderstood. I forced myself to remain calm, though my heartbeat was racing wildly. Xiao Heng had been acting erratically since his rebirth. If he set his sights on Zhu Jiangqi, it wouldn't bode well. In his past life, he stole the show during this autumn hunt and was rewarded with a deer hide by the emperor. Did I remember correctly? Xiao Heng narrowed his eyes. Also staring at Zhu Jiangqi. Seems so, I replied quietly. Then guess, what did he make from the deer hide? I felt a bit flustered inside, but kept my composure. How would I know about his affairs? Xiao Heng said slowly. Shen Hongmei once mentioned that consort Shu's deer hide coat was extremely warm, and she envied it greatly. I suddenly looked up. Xiao Heng asked me again. Have you never wondered why you couldn't conceive a child later on? I shook my head. In my past life, I always thought it was my elder sister secretly poisoning me, but the imperial physicians could never find the cause, so I assumed it was due to the damage from that time I fell into the water. For Xiao Heng to ask me this, could it be related to Zhu Jiangqi? Impossible, I instinctively retorted, but my voice trembled slightly. Zhu Jiangqi was the only person who ever showed me warmth in the depths of the palace. How could he do this? He, more than anyone. Should know how desperately I needed a child. Xiao Heng gripped my wrist with such force it ached. The deer hide he gave you was steamed for 7 days with musk and safflower. Surely you knew. Tears streamed down my face as I shook my head repeatedly. Xiao Heng leaned close to my ear and enunciated each word deliberately. Even the cotton padding inside that cushion was soaked in sterility poison. Cheers erupted from the hunting grounds. I looked up and met Zhu Jiangqi's gaze from across the distance. The autumn sun gilded his profile, his gentle eyes unchanged, just like that snowy night in our past life when he draped a coat over my shoulders. I suddenly remembered the hesitant look on his face when he gave me the deerskin in my past life. Along with that gentle reminder, Your Highness, this cushion was made by my own hands. Please keep it for your personal use. Because of those words, I treasured the cushion as if it were a priceless gem. Even when my elder sister asked for it several times, I always declined with a smile. Even at night, I had to hold it in my arms. The deadliest blade was always hidden in the gentlest sheath. Why? I heard my own voice, broken and fragmented. Why would Zhu Jiangqi do such a thing? Xiao Heng sneered coldly. Because the one he's always been loyal to is none other than Consort Shu. The night deepened with heavy dew. Yet I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. Fragments of my past life with Zhu Jiangqi flashed before my eyes like a revolving lantern. The winter plum branch he broke for me, the hand warmer he passed me on a snowy night, and the unmelting tenderness in his eyes when he said, "Why are your highness's hands always so cold?" Shen Qingwan. Xiao Heng suddenly flipped over, pinning me beneath him, his thumb roughly wiping away the tears at the corner of my eye, lying beside me, carrying my child. Yet crying so bitterly for another man. Do you think I'm dead? I hurriedly wiped my tears, choking out, I just never thought he would actually harm me. Fellow sufferers in a world of sorrow. Xiao Heng sighed, pulling me back into his embrace, and whispered softly, in our past lives, we were both stabbed by those closest to us. Did that courtesan hurt you too? I asked him in a muffled voice. In my past life, I truly never paid attention to the cause of his death after all. It was irrelevant to me. He let out a low, cold laugh. I defied my parents' objections to marry her, only for her to slip slow-acting poison into my tea every day. I couldn't help but remark, you married her, then took several concubines in succession. When you think about it, her actions are somewhat understandable. Xiao Heng narrowed his eyes dangerously. I'm indeed not as ruthless as you, yearning for Zhu Jiangqi in your heart yet still exiling him to the frontier to seize military power for your son. How did you know? I jerked my head up. When these things happened in my past life, Xiao Heng had already been dead for over 2 years. Actually, I didn't die back then. I was alive, I just lost my memory. Who saved you? I couldn't help but ask. You. I froze, searching my memory for a long while, yet couldn't recall this past event. Back then, to win over my father, you summoned renowned physicians from across the land. Dr. Wu worked miracles and saved me, but I lost my memories, my mind becoming like a child's. So that's how it was. I sighed softly. There had been too many such schemes in my past life, I could no longer remember each and every one. But Dr. Wu, in my past life, he truly helped me with many matters. In this life, I also sent people to find Dr. Wu early on, and now he serves in the prince's residence. Xiao Heng said fiercely again. Unfortunately, Liu Pingji lured me out of the prince's residence and threw me onto a merchant ship heading south. I held his hand and said softly, "Don't worry, in this life, I won't poison you." He suddenly chuckled low, his laughter tinged with amusement. You've changed. The ruthless Empress Dowager Xiaoxian from your past life has now become the woman by my side. I closed my eyes, letting exhaustion wash over me. I just feel tired, in this life. I want to live more lightly. Xiao Heng smiled faintly. Shen Qingwan, you really are a heartless woman. Even after being reborn, you still haven't gone looking for Zhu Jiangqi. I didn't respond. It's not that I don't want to, but I know all too well that it's merely a moon reflected in water. In both past and present lives, love has never been the most important thing to me. To live well, prosperously, and freely, that is my true desire. Outside the window, the autumn wind brushed through the treetops, rustling softly. Xiao Heng suddenly pulled me closer. Sleep now. Tomorrow we'll watch the spectacle at the hunting grounds. The sound of his heartbeat transmitted through the fabric, inexplicably bringing me a strange sense of comfort. For 3 days at the hunting grounds, Zhu Jiangqi's figure galloping on horseback and drawing his bow was identical to his past life's demeanor, standing on the viewing platform. I dug my nails deep into the soft flesh of my palms. The person who ruined my life, I should hate them to the bone. Yet decades of obsession have now turned into a dull ache surging in my chest, more tormenting than hatred. Second sister, are you watching the air? My elder sister had somehow appeared beside me, her voice laced with probing curiosity. I curved my lips into the perfect smile. Indeed, the air is so mischievous, he always keeps us on edge. That rash that day wasn't an accident. Was it? My elder sister's gaze was sharp as a blade, her voice icy. Just the whims of fate, I replied nonchalantly, yet my eyes remained locked on that figure in the arena. Suddenly, Ju Jiangqi's horse let out a long whinny and bolted wildly into the depths of the dense forest. I gripped the railing tightly, my embroidered handkerchief fluttering to the ground unnoticed, summoned the imperial physician at once. My elder sister was even more panicked than I, crying out in alarm, her face deathly pale. Only when I saw Ju Jiangqi being rescued did I realize my back was already drenched in sweat. My sister staggered toward the scene, the golden hairpins in her hair casting chaotic reflections. I slowly unclenched my fingers, white from gripping too hard, a cold smile curling at the corners of my mouth. This play is getting more and more interesting, these past few days. I've been thinking about the deerskin coat Xiao Heng mentioned. In my past life, my elder sister by the principal wife did wear one, though at the time I simply assumed it was provided by the principal wife. The principal wife's maternal family was wealthy and often gave her fine things, so I thought nothing of it. I never imagined having any connection with Ju Jiangqi. My first encounter with Ju Jiangqi was on the night I faked my death to escape, during the New Year's Eve palace banquet. I was about to sneak into the emperor's bedchamber when a figure in black discovered me. He pursued me relentlessly. Thinking back now, if Ju Jiangqi had been on duty that night, he should have been in the emperor's presence. How could he have appeared in the imperial garden? What's even more suspicious is the bite mark on his hand. In my panic that night, I bit the black-clad man who was restraining me, which allowed me to jump into the lake. When I was rescued, there were several matrons around. But he was the only guard present and his clothes were still wet. Instinctively, I assumed he was the one who saved me. No wonder he always changed the subject whenever I mentioned the details of that night. No wonder there was always something in his gaze I couldn't quite decipher. No wonder he always advised me, saying I could still have more children, that even if our son was raised in my elder sister's arms, it wouldn't change the fact that I was his birth mother. All those moments I mistook for tender hesitation were actually evidence of his deception. I pressed a hand to my chest, where something seemed to be blocking my breath, causing a dull ache. The life-saving grace I'd cherished in my heart for years turned out to be nothing but an elaborately staged honey trap from beginning to end, and I, like a fool, had been grateful to him for so long. Fortunately, in my past life, I was ultimately ruthless, even with gratitude in my heart. I never hesitated to use him. By the time I returned to the hot spring villa, dusk had already fallen. After dinner, I continued embroidering shoes and socks for my unborn child. When Xiao Heng returned, he still carried the scent of dust from the hunting grounds. Ju Jiangqi fell from his horse and broke 2 ribs, he said casually as he removed his outer robe, though his gaze remained fixed on my expression. My needlework hand paused briefly before I replied indifferently, "Did he? You're so calm, don't you feel any pity?" He suddenly leaned in, the scent of blood from his hunt clinging to him as he closed the distance. I lifted my gaze with a faint smile. I am now a woman of the Xiao family. Why should I pity an outsider? Xiao Heng let out a cold laugh, his palm resting on my swollen belly as he sighed softly. "Ah, if this child takes after your temperament, I fear they'll be born with 7 parts cruelty." I brushed his hand away and gently caressed my belly myself. "I only hope they can distinguish right from wrong, not confuse good and evil." Xiao Heng suddenly burst into laughter, pulling me into his embrace. "Don't worry, my offspring will naturally be the most filial," I said coldly. "The child I bear will be raised by me. If any of your future illegitimate sons dare to offer poisoned wine, don't blame me for being ruthless." "What illegitimate sons?" Xiao Heng suddenly nibbled my earlobe. "All my children in this lifetime will come from your womb." Would I believe him? In his previous life, he took in that courtesan, and within less than 3 months, he stirred up a storm by marrying the daughter of Grand Tutor Yang as his concubine. Third sister had already gone to the palace to weep and complain 3 times. Xiao Heng noticed my sarcasm and suddenly became serious. Having lived a second life, how could I make the same foolish mistakes again? I turned my face away, only to hear him sigh softly. "Qingwan, ever since you became pregnant, you've treated me more distantly than before." "You jest, my lord, but with such sudden attentiveness, could it be you've done something to feel guilty about?" The wick suddenly crackled, casting a flickering light that deepened the shadows in his eyes. "No, I just recalled some things from my past life when I'd lost my memory, and I think, though you're ruthless, you're also beautiful and clever. Having you is quite nice indeed." The steam from the tea curled upwards as I lowered my gaze in silence. Those bygone days, I neither wished to hear of them nor cared to ask. As for his flattery, I felt nothing. if Xiao Heng truly wanted to take a concubine, I wouldn't care. The emperor holds annual selections for new consorts, and the imperial harem never lacks fresh faces. I've long grown accustomed to it. In this second life of mine, I only wish to live simply. I've spent a lifetime in my previous existence playing the tiresome role of competing with several women for one man. I didn't return to watch the hunt, but went back to the prince's residence instead. News soon arrived that Zhu Jiangqi had developed a high fever after falling from his horse and remained unconscious. Stirring the bird's nest soup in the celadon cup, I curled my lips into a cold smile. In my past life, I became the Empress Dowager, so these methods come naturally to me now. Before coming to the mountain villa, I had secretly arranged for people to protect Zhu Jiangqi's safety. Little did I expect they would ultimately serve this purpose, to bring about his downfall. When the imperial physicians couldn't diagnose the problem, the Zhu family grew anxious and sought famous doctors everywhere. I sent physician Wu to the Zhu residence as well. Young mistress. Several imperial physicians have examined him and concluded that young Master Zhu won't be waking up anytime soon. Xiao Dao continued beside me. I stroked my swollen belly and smiled faintly. Go, make the news sound even more convincing. Say that Zhu Jiangqi doesn't have many days left to live. In my past life, Zhu Jiangqi was capable of performing a devoted lover's act for over a decade before me, all for the sake of my elder sister. Now I want to see just how many tears this loyal pawn is worth in my elder sister's heart. Within a few days, Xiao Heng returned excitedly and said, Qingwan, Consort Shu sneaked out of the palace at night to visit Zhu Jiangqi and was caught red-handed by the emperor. So soon, logically, since Zhu Jiangqi had been unconscious all along, my elder sister shouldn't have been in such a hurry, Xiao Heng said smugly. I personally went to inform Consort Shu that Zhu Jiangqi was critically injured and beyond cure. She immediately panicked and rushed to visit him that very night. So that's how it was. He suddenly leaned in and whispered to me, just letting him die like that doesn't seem like your style. I smiled without saying a word. If someone could erase Xiao Heng's memories in our past life, wouldn't it be perfect to let Zhu Jiangqi taste the same medicine now? Just as I expected, rumors of Consort Shu's affair with a guard spread throughout the palace overnight. Even though Zhu Jiangqi remained unconscious and my elder sister tried every possible explanation, the furious emperor still banished her to the cold palace. A month later, Zhu Jiangqi awoke, yet repeatedly claimed he didn't recognize the noble Consort Shu. Xiao Heng returned and reported, the third Miss Shun has confessed everything. She said noble Consort Shu and guard Zhu had long been involved in an illicit affair. Who would have thought she'd betray her own elder sister so thoroughly just to secure her release from the palace? The emperor's thunderous wrath came swift and merciless. Zhu Jiangqi was beaten to death on the spot, while the legitimate elder sister was forced to witness the execution at the palace steps. They say when those blood-stained court rods came down, she threw herself forward with desperate cries, only to have her ribs kicked in until they snapped, all dead. I stirred the ashes in the incense burner and asked coldly. Xiao Heng wrapped his arms around me from behind. What? Feeling sorry for them, gazing at the withered leaves drifting past the window, I gently touched my abdomen. This lifetime, at last no one can harm my child. Third sister was sent back to the Shun residence but remained unconscious for several days. The legal mother was frantic with worry and summoned all the famous physicians in the capital. The doctors couldn't determine the cause of her coma, but they detected traces of safflower medicine in her system. This can't be possible. The legal mother's face turned deathly pale, but Consort Shu was already dead, and all the palace maids who had served her closely had scattered. Now, there was no way to verify the truth. The maidservant by Shen Hongmei's side had long been sent out of the palace by me, after Shen Hongmei woke up and learned that she might never conceive. She secluded herself in her room for months. Then, she unexpectedly set her sights on Xiao Heng again. If Qingwan can bear children, I can raise hers as my own. Shen Hongmei bit her lip, her eyes gleaming with calculation. My stepmother found this quite reasonable, and the two of them came to visit the prince's residence the day after I gave birth. Qingwan, the position of the heir's consort was always meant to be your third sister's, my stepmother declared in a tone that brooked no argument. You've held it long enough, it's time to step aside. I said nothing, merely exchanging a meaningful glance with Xiao Dao. The princess consort was quickly summoned. Upon hearing their intentions, she let out a cold laugh. Madam Shen, you must be confused. It was Qingwan's marriage that saved my son's life through the auspicious union ritual. Now they are a harmonious couple with a healthy child. What nonsense is this about yielding her position? Shen Hongmei stepped forward. Your Highness, rest assured, I will treat the child as my own. The princess consort's gaze turned sharp. The legitimate grandson of our Yong'an prince's manor is not to be raised by an outsider. Xiao Heng entered and declared sternly, "The only woman I will ever call my wife is Shen Qingwan." Shen Hongmei's eyes reddened with urgency. "But it was clearly me who was betrothed to you. She only married in my stead." Xiao Heng's lips curved slightly. "Oh, then may I ask where the third miss was at that time? After being in the palace for so long, was it just accompanying consort Shu?" Sister was feeling depressed. "What's wrong with me keeping her company?" Shen Hongmei retorted, with guard Ju by her side day and night. How could consort Shu possibly be depressed? A sudden chill flashed in Xiao Heng's eyes. Shen Hongmei turned pale with anger, pointing at Xiao Heng but unable to speak. The princess consort rose at the appropriate moment. "The consort has just given birth and needs rest. Madam Shen, please take your leave. My stepmother shot me an unwilling glare. Qingwan has to care for the child. How could she possibly have energy left to attend to the heir? Why not have Hongmei come stay for a while? What do you think, Qingwan?" I nearly laughed out loud, for her daughter's sake. My stepmother would even cast aside her dignity. I'm weary. Such matters should be decided by the heir himself. Xiao Heng stared at me with a furrowed brow. I closed my eyes and pretended to sleep. A man can be controlled in body, but never in heart. If he has no intention, why should I say more? If he is determined, what can I do? When I woke again, Xiao Heng was sitting by the bed, playing with the child. Seeing me open my eyes, his expression immediately darkened. "Qingwan, do you really care so little about me taking a new concubine? You two were husband and wife in your past lives. If you wish to rekindle that bond, I can't stop you." "Shen Qingwan," Xiao Heng cut me off, emotions churning in his eyes. "Are you truly this heartless? No wonder you could become the Empress Dowager." He bent down and gently placed the child in my arms before storming out. Watching his retreating figure, I couldn't help but smile. Shen Hongmei ultimately didn't marry into the prince's mansion. It said she later became the second wife of a deputy general. The princess gradually handed over the management of the household's businesses to me. The child gradually grew up. And Xiao Heng truly never took another concubine. Moreover, he thrived in the imperial court, becoming the emperor's most favored official. 3 years later, war suddenly broke out at the frontier, and Xiao Heng was ordered to lead the troops into battle. I couldn't sleep at night. This battle was extremely perilous. And in the previous life, many renowned generals had fallen there. After much hesitation, I still recounted the battle situation I knew in detail to him. Then hastily crafted a golden silk soft armor. "My lady has grown increasingly concerned about her husband lately," Xiao Heng remarked while touching the soft armor, his eyes filled with amusement. I turned my face away, saying, "I just don't want you to die in vain, that's all." Suddenly, he pulled me into his embrace. "I remember you used to dream of becoming a widow. Now you can't bear to see me die." My heart trembled. Yes. Had that notion of becoming a wealthy widow gradually faded in the day-to-day tranquility? Perhaps it was in the pastries he brought home for me late at night, or in his sleepless vigils when our child fell ill, or perhaps, simply in the habit of having someone standing shoulder to shoulder with me. Outside the window, spring was at its finest. Leaning against his shoulder, I suddenly thought living like this for a lifetime might not be so bad after all.